come to this happy place, welcome.
Please stand clear of the doors. Por
We
favor,
invite you, if
manténganse
you
alejados
dare,
de las
to
puertas.
visit tonight's episode in the Western Intergalactic Travel Doorless Chambers.
Hello and welcome to Miles from Main Street, your Far From Disney podcast. My name is Mikhailo,
And I'm Brian,
and we're here to talk about Disney World,
but especially coping away from Disney.
which we know a lot about being from the Midwest. Here at Miles from Main Street, our preferred travel agency is Magical Vacations by Kimberly. Kimberly is a Disney expert and can handle all of your Disney planning needs. She can also plan Universal and all major cruise lines. Contact Kimberly at magicalvacationsbykimberly@yahoo.com.
And find her on Facebook and Instagram under Magical Vacations by Kimberly.
So today on Miles from Main Street, we've got Hollywood Studios versus Animal Kingdom. Fight! We are going to go over these two resorts and see which one's better.
I feel like we need like the Mortal Kombat music from the video game, like ready or Street Fighter, you know?
That's that's what I was going for. But it's not. I mean, let's be honest. Both these resorts are great. It's so hard to do something like this. But I really kind of wanted to just put this out there and see, put these two resorts up against each other and see which one truly is the better resort. We're kind of taking feelings out of it. We might have some better feelings towards one or the other, but we're going to kind of go with straight facts, like who's got what. And we're going to go with that. We're going to try to give you guys an unbiased look into these two resorts and give you the winner. So we have a couple categories that we're going to have in this. First one, obviously, rides. Who's got the best rides? Who's got the most rides? Stuff like that. Dining. Who's got the better dining options? We've got the park layout. Does the park make sense? We've got park theming. Is the theme to the whole park cohesive? And then we've got entertainment. What kind of stuff can you go and see? Some of these things actually don't exist anymore or are kind of on hold because of COVID. So we're going to go with the pre-COVID idea of these parks, because who knows what these parks will look like in the future. But we know what they did look like in their prime. So we're gonna go with that. It's a high possibility that most of those things can come back or will come back in a certain way. But we're going to go with what we know, and that's what we know and love, and that's these parks in their prime. So again, we've got Hollywood Studios versus Animal Kingdom. First one coming out of the gate, rides. So this is actually a pretty hard one for me too, because I do think that Animal Kingdom has some pretty great rides. Hollywood Studios has some amazing rides. And honestly, this is two heavy hitters right away because they've got some of the best rides on property, both of these resorts. Just some of probably two of the best rides. And the first one coming to mind is Flight of Passage. And then obviously the big gorilla in the room, Rise of the Resistance. That's, the big one. Honestly, those are probably like two top rides right now. So it would be kind of hard for me. So you really kind of have to look at what else the resort has. And for me, Animal Kingdom has like two or three other pretty decent rides. And then everything else, I wouldn't say is like subpar, but just kind of like things that are there, like things that like I don't get too excited about. Things like Dinosaur, like that's a pretty awesome ride, but I'm not like gonna be running to Dinosaur as soon as I get to the park. I am not a huge fan of the safari ride. What's it called?
Kilimanjaro safaris.
Kilimanjaro Safari. That you can see how little interested I am, how uninterested I am with that ride.
I think it was a lot better when you had the Little Red story going on when they first opened it, but I find it still enjoyable.
Yeah, and I have to say the last time I went on it, it was a lot of fun. We got to go on it pretty early, but for the most part, that's kind of like a meh for me. Like it's a decent ride, but it's not something I feel like I have to go on all the time. And it's just I don't know. I just feel like at Animal Kingdom, after you hit your big hitters, obviously Everest, Flight of Passage. I mean, Navi River Journey could also be one, but that's another one where I think just because Pandora is so popular, it kind of gets a little overhyped. It's a pretty cool ride, and I love the animatronic there, but again, it's kind of like, like I could go without it. Like I don't have to ride it. And then you flip over to Hollywood Studios, and I feel like that's just like hit after hit after hit, where I just feel like they've got a lot of the big rides there that I just love going on and that are just like some of my favorite rides. I mean, Tower of Terror, that's my favorite ride on property. Like I love that ride, and the theming to that ride is great. I think that's probably why it's so good. And it's just like in that corner, you got Hollywood Studio, or you've got Tower of Terror, and you've got Rock and Roller Coaster, just two super iconic rides. And then on the other side of the park, you've got Rise of the Resistance and Smuggler's Run. Again, two just huge rides that are just so great. And in the middle, you've got Toy Story Land, which has Slinky Dog Dash, another great ride. So I definitely feel like Hollywood Studios has, I would say, I'm putting it down right now on paper. Kylo says that Hollywood Studios has the better rides. Not by a whole lot, because again, both of these resorts have pretty stellar rides. But I would have to say I definitely think Hollywood Studios inches out Animal Kingdom in the rides category.
Well, first of all, I need to not to be a word Nazi, but you keep saying resorts, and to me, a resort is where I sleep, and I go to the theme park for fun. So I would use parks as the term here. So I got to stop you and just, I don't know, like, okay, Mikhailo, we're going to the park.
For sure.
So
and I hear resorts every so often too, when people are referring to the parks. And so sometimes I mix those two up.
Okay. Well, now that I got that out of the way, there are a lot of things at Animal Kingdom that I really do enjoy. Our last trip, we did hit pretty much everything we wanted to. And we were done by 1:30. I think that right there is a downfall for it.
Mm-hmm.
I do enjoy the safari. I love Everest. I love Flight of Passage. The river ride's great. And Dinosaur is fun, right? But that's where it stops. You got the 5 rides. And what did you name? You named 6, 7 rides over at Hollywood Studios, just off the top of your head, right?
Mm-hmm.
So right there, Hollywood Studios is beating in number alone of things you can do, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then if you want to flip the coin a little bit, Hollywood Studios just finished a big redo. They just added 5 brand new rides. Okay. What if those rides were 10, 20 years old at this point? Would they still be as popular as they are? You look at Tower of Terror and Rock and Roller Coaster, and they are still really popular. Rock and Roller Coaster is the only one that goes upside down. My kids love it. They feel it's their favorite. I think it's up there against Everest for me. If you ask me my favorite coaster on property, it's going to be Big Thunder Mountain. But when we're looking at the two of them, that's a hard one. I think Everest might actually be a little better than Rock and Roller Coaster, but that's a hard one for me to pick. But you look at like Slinky Dog. No one's ranking that coaster up at the top, right? So 10 years from now, is that still going to be as popular as it is? I think Alien Swirling Saucers has already been deemed not that great, but it's still fun. It's another filler ride that Animal Kingdom doesn't have, right? Well, I guess they kind of do. We forgot about Triceratops Spin. Nobody really talks about that one. So they've got 6. We're still at 8, 9, whatever it might be. But I kind of look at the newness of things over at Hollywood Studios, and I wonder if it was 10 years from now, would it still have the luster that it has now? I think Star Wars is probably going to last for quite a while. The excitement around it. They're going to expand. I can only imagine they're going to expand after the hotel is done. Maybe it'll take a little while for them to do it. Who knows? But I kind of have to agree with you, though. I'm going to have to agree that Hollywood Studios does get the nod here, if for no other reason than pure numbers.
Yeah, and again, I totally see what you're talking about, where it's kind of like because Hollywood Studios did just go through a big refurb, so everything's a little bit more new, everything's a little bit more exciting. I don't know, but I do feel like everything that they put in is going to have longevity, and so I'm pretty confident in something like that. A lot of, it's just Star Wars Land. That's going to have longevity. Toy Story Land, I could see being pretty into that for a while. I know I would be, because it's my favorite movie. But I can see what you're saying about Slinky Dog Dash. It is kind of a short coaster, but there's just something about it that is very whimsical and fun, that I enjoy. But that's a good thought provoking question, is if something like that is going to have longevity, and how we're going to feel about that in 10 years.
Well, and if you look at Toy Story Mania, I can remember when that was the most popular ride in all of Disney World.
Yep.
Like, that was the one that you worked the hardest to get on, right? And I think that's an afterthought. How far into the show are we now? And this is the first time we mentioned it.
Exactly.
And, I think Toy Story Land, I wanted it to be better than it is.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's good. And I think it might be at its full potential at this point. You've got 3 rides in that land. You've got some pretty good theming going on, but other than adding the restaurant they've got coming, there's not much more you can do there, and that bothers me. Like, I love the Toy Story movies. I have from the day the first one came out, but I guess I just wanted a little bit more out of it. So that if you take that out though, and you put the rest of the park against Animal Kingdom, I think you still need to give the nod to Hollywood Studios.
For sure, yeah. And I feel like sometimes this has always kind of been in the back of my head, but I've never really said it or expressed it in any way. But I do feel like Toy Story Land kind of got California adventured, where they they didn't really pour enough money into it. They weren't able to get as creative as they could have with it, because they knew they had that juggernaut of Star Wars Land coming in. So, I see what you're saying. And I totally agree. But I mean, yeah, even taking out Toy Story Land, I still would think Hollywood Studios has better rides. So we are in agreement. Hollywood Studios wins in the ride category. Now, let's go into dining. I have a pretty big judgment coming up right away. And that is, I'm just going to say it, Animal Kingdom has better dining.
Okay.
It's really kind of, it's not even really close. If you kind of look at it on paper, you might think so. But I don't know. I've had some pretty decent dining opportunities in Hollywood Studios, but I don't know. It's just kind of desolate. There's just really not much going on in the world of dining at Hollywood Studios. Most of the time, I end up choosing dinner somewhere else. I end up making a reservation on that day, either at like downtown Disney or somewhere else, and I don't even eat in that park. I have before, but it's not. I don't know. It's kind of hard to. It's hard to get reservations there just because there's just not as many dining opportunities there. Their only real signature sit down restaurant is the Brown Derby. Everything else is kind of like you got a couple other sit down restaurants, but they're not as kind of like high class or like really too fancy. But yeah, it's just always kind of the vibe that I've gotten from Hollywood Studios is that it's just not that great for dining. There's some pretty great places there, like the Brown Derby, and I've talked about Mama Muller's before, and that was a lot of fun. Sci-Fi Dine-In Theater, I hear is really cool. I hear the food isn't that great, and then there's one more that I can't think of right now, and I've never been to
There's
it.
two more actually. There's 50s Prime Time,
50s
which
Prime Time.
I've heard good things about. And I don't know if it's necessarily the food. I think the fried chicken might be popular there.
Mhm.
But the theming that goes into that
Yeah, for sure.
restaurant is very popular. Whereas if you're unaware, the the waitress or the servers are going to kind of act like your mom.
Mhm.
They'll tell you to finish your peas if you don't finish all of your peas, that type of thing. Um, that and then right next door is Hollywood and Vine,
Mhm.
which has a really bad rap. I have not heard how it is now since it reopened.
Mhm.
We ate there. Oh gosh, I think that was 2016 when we ate there, and it was good. It was a buffet. It was good. The kids enjoyed seeing the characters as part of the character meal. Um, so I think you have some options. I don't want, this, I'm gonna give the numbers to Hollywood Studios again, because like you said, there's only the one signature, but you do have those sit downs.
Mhm.
But all that being said, when I think of Hollywood Studios, I'm not thinking about eating anything. I'm
Mhm.
not going there for food. I'm not thinking, oh, we're going to be at Hollywood Studios. I want to go to this. Um, Now, I did not eat at Docking Bay 7 this last time around, but we did get Ronto wraps at Ronto's Roasters in the morning, and we were really happy with those. We thought those were good. That's a quick service meal. That's just, you could even call it a snack if you wanted to. Um, but I've seen some people eat it at Docking Bay 7, which is the Star Wars eatery. Again, it's a pretty much quick service.
Mhm.
Um, and I've heard mixed reviews on it, so I have not eaten there. I had a glass of water in there just so I could see the inside, but I have not actually eaten any of the food. Um, I don't. I think did you guys eat at ABC Commissary the last time?
I generally most of the time go and eat at ABC Commissary just because it's a decent place to go eat and it's never too busy. And so that's actually where I usually go. But again, it's just kind of like it's meant to be that way. It's supposed to feel like a cafeteria, but it feels like a cafeteria. So,
Yeah, so I mean, you've got all those quick service, but there's nothing that we're pointing to and saying that's a good quick service.
mhm.
We ate at Woody's Lunchbox, and my kids are still talking about how they enjoyed it. You get the loaded potato barrels at Disney, which I thought were really good. And but I think the item there that everyone's wanting is the Pop Tarts
Mhm.
that they have. But again, it's not standing out, right? And even Hollywood Brown Derby, I've heard people say, oh, their Cobb salad's good, the grapefruit cake's good, but I don't hear people say like it's really worth going there,
Mhm.
So let's flip it. Let's look at Animal Kingdom. We've spent a lot of time talking about the food at Hollywood Studios now. Animal Kingdom, I can right away say, I want to go to Yak and Yeti. My wife and I were actually talking about it before we recorded. She was really hungry because we ate dinner really late, and she was like, I just want to go to Yak and Yeti. And I would love to right now go to, well, that's because I'm in Wisconsin, but I would love to go to Yak and Yeti right now. So that's one place that we still talk about, right? That we've been to. I know Tiffin's is very popular.
Mhm.
There's a character meal of Tusker House that is really popular.
Mhm.
And then you've got the barbecue place, Flame Tree Barbecue,
Flame Tree
which
Barbecue.
is a
Yep.
quick service that is pretty darn good.
Mhm.
So they've got quite a few places. Oh, and how can I forget Satuli Canteen?
Yeah.
I mean, probably one of the best quick services on property.
Mhm.
So I think you guys can already hear from my point of view, I'm going for Animal Kingdom.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, I agree. And pretty much everything you just said. You named all the big hitters. Even like places like Pizzafari is pretty decent. I don't know. It's just it feels like there's a bigger emphasis on food, maybe. Like they kind of decided that food was going to be important, and it was kind of woven into the theme that they had. So that's always very fun to have, and even things like even some of their quick service options like are real good. Whereas I just can't really say that too much about Hollywood Studios. It just doesn't seem like anything really stands out. I feel like the place that I've always wanted to go, which I've never been able to get a reservation for, is the sci-fi drive-in theater, just purely because you get to sit in a car and watch a movie while you eat. But I mean, that's the only one that really sticks out to me.
And I've been able to go in there. Actually, the first couple of times I went to Disney, that was the place I went and ate because I was aware of it, I guess. The food wasn't memorable though. Like I don't recall what I even ate. But I remember enjoying it and having, a good time because I was able to sit in a car and watch these old movies, right?
Right. Yeah.
So, and of course that goes back to when you could just walk up and get a table. You didn't have to get a reservation 60 days or 180 days or whatever it may be, but
Yeah, but dining dining definitely goes to Animal Kingdom, for pretty much everything Brian said. It's a very good place for dining. I feel like there's more of an emphasis on dining there, and it's real hard to find some place that's pretty bad. Whereas I feel like you can go to Hollywood Studios and and kind of stumble over some bad food while you're there. So
Somebody's screaming at us right now. Like, what are you talking about? Hollywood Studios has great food. Yeah, I just know it.
Of course, someone's yelling at us, but this is our informed decision on Hollywood Studios. And if you have a problem with it, let us know. Yeah, yell at us on Facebook. But moving on, we're gonna go into park layout. This one is kind of like how manageable is the park? Kind of like how does the park make sense? Do you ever get lost? How easy is it to get to stuff? One thing that Walt Disney really emphasized when he was making his parks was that kind of hub and spoke type layout, like making sure everything was nicely laid out. You always knew where stuff was in relation to other things just because of how the whole park was. And so going with that, we're going to kind of critique these two parks and how they're laid out. So I kind of want to talk about Hollywood Studios first. And that's because out of all of the parks, I just think Hollywood Studios was just hastily put together, which is funny because that's kind of how Epcot was put together. But it's just, I don't know. I still get kind of confused about the layout of where things are. Just kind of like looking at the park and like understanding where things sit. I definitely think that the Main Street isn't really Main Street. I feel like Main Street at Hollywood Studios is Hollywood Boulevard, which is the lane that kind of leads up towards Tower Terror and Rock and Roller Coaster. So it's kind of a weird hodgepodge of a park. I mean, and it doesn't help that the park almost immediately went through some growing pains of like, at first it was kind of a studio, and then it kind of wasn't, and then like stuff was sitting around dormant and they didn't know what to do with things, and so they just kind of started like remaking the whole park layout. And so I've just never really vibed on the layout of Hollywood Studios. I just feel like it's difficult to get places. It's kind of difficult to wrap your head around how to navigate that park. And so I've just never really enjoyed the way that it's laid out. It's never really kind of been like, from here I can easily get to here, or from like this is kind of like the main area. We can hang out here and then go here. I always end up, maybe it's just how much I love Tower of Terror and Rock and Roller Coaster, but it's just hanging out on Hollywood Boulevard out there. That just kind of feels like home for the park, and it's really kind of just like off to the right. Like it's just, you go down like the Main Street area. I'm doing air quotes, Main Street area, and then you hit Hollywood Boulevard. And that really, I mean, that's where I take all my pictures. The same way that people take pictures of the castle as they're walking down Main Street, that's what people do with Tower of Terror. And that's what's kind of funny is I do feel like Tower of Terror is the weenie for that park. If you don't know what weenie means, weenie is like the big thing that catches your eye at a theme park. The castle, Cinderella's castle, is the weenie. Animal Kingdom, the weenie is the Tree of Life. Epcot, the weenie is Spaceship Earth. And the weenie for Hollywood Studios, I would say, is Tower of Terror. And the sad thing is that Tower of Terror is just tucked out at the end of Hollywood Boulevard, just kind of away from everything else. So you kind of, it's weird. It feels like you backtrack when you go to this park, because I always end up just taking that right and going towards Hollywood Studio, or going towards Tower of Terror and Rock and Roller Coaster, and kind of like most of the time starting my day there and then having to backtrack through everything else. So it's just kind of it's a weird layout. I just feel like when they first put it together, it was supposed to be something different than what it ended up being, and they just kind of kept adding on to the park and adding on, and just that original idea never really happened or was really utilized, and so it just ended up being kind of like an amalgamation of like all of these different things that were going on. And so just the layout itself just never really panned out in a way that makes sense.
And if you go, if I'm remembering the Imagineering story well enough, it was Eisner's idea to open this park. And actually, it was originally thought as, gosh, I'm trying to remember exactly how they were doing that. But it was like, let's do this piece of entertainment or piece of attraction of some sort. And he said, why don't we make a full park out of it, a full studio out of it, right? And then they said, okay, we can do a half-day park out of it. And that was the original plan. But then Eisner would come to him with, oh, I thought about this, or how about we do that? And so you're right. Like, it was kind of thrown together in pieces. It kind of, as they were working, more things kept coming at them, and they kept trying to fit it all together. As far as the weenie, I don't know the truth, and I hesitate to say this, but I feel like there's enough there that I don't think Disney has the license to be able to use the Chinese theater as their weenie.
Mm-hmm.
And that goes back to before Tower of Terror was used. Originally, it was the water tower, the Earful Tower.
Mm-hmm.
That was the weenie that you saw being marketed everywhere. And then when they took that down, it went to the Tower of Terror. I mean, why not change it to the Chinese theater at that point? But they didn't, right?
Mm-hmm.
You've got a marquee ride inside of the Chinese theater now, and they're not marketing that as the face of the park. So
Mm-hmm.
I think there could be some truth to the fact that they don't have the license to be able to do that. My mind runs sometimes, and I've got so much that I would like to say about it, but that's too much of a tangent right now.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense. And I guess I've never really thought of it that way. The Hollywood Studios has kind of always been, I mean, it was the Earful Tower for a while, but then it's just always been Tower of Terror. That's always kind of been the big weenie for me for that park. And I don't know, I mean, growing up, that was always the thing, and it's still kind of currently that way. But I've never really thought about that. I've never thought that possibly they just don't have the rights to be able to market the Chinese theater in that way. They probably have, I mean, obviously they have the rights to build it, but possibly it's just to be like a recreation. Like they can't be using it in any promotional advertisements or anything like that.
Yeah. So I don't know if we've gotten too far off track here, but we're supposed to be comparing it back to Animal Kingdom, right?
Correct.
But I would agree with you. Like you have the dead end down by Tower of Terror. You've got that weird interchange from like the main, I guess if you want to call it the hub in the middle by the Chinese theater, but it's a weird interchange that goes from there over to Toy Story Land, right? You don't go out into a land, you go like out into the left, and then another right, and you go past what they're calling now Municiberg, which is another dead end, which makes no sense to me. Why is there a dead end, but then they do have the big loop when it comes to Star Wars and Toy Story. So I would agree, though. It's kind of weird. And then last part I'll say about it is that you've got Echo Lake and you've got the eateries on the other side of the lake. I have no reason to go over there unless I'm eating there, right?
Right. Exactly.
I went back and bought some snacks this last trip back in that area, and I was like, I never come back here. Like I'd never come back here. There's no reason for me to come over here. So the upsetting part to me was that I realized after the fact that the stand that I bought from had actual movie props from The Rocketeer, which was one movie that I loved as a kid. So a little disappointed that I missed looking at that while I was standing there. But let's look at Animal Kingdom. Like Animal Kingdom is odd, right? But while it's odd, it still has that circular motion to it. Whether you're going to Dino Land first or to Pandora, you can still make your circle. And why I say odd is you've got that weird entrance. They don't have the typical Main Street type of entrance, right? It's a discovery area. Like I always try to tell people, this is a park of discovery. They want you to slow down. They want you to look at what's going on. They want you to find things. That's why there's all these trails. So when you come in, that's what they're trying to set up in this case, is they want you to slow down and start taking a look around and get that into your head. Obviously, that's not working because people are trying to get to Flight of Passage right away so they can be the first ones on it and not have to waste half their day there. But that aside, that's what they're trying to do. So once you get through that initial, if you want to call it Main Street area, and you get to the Tree of Life, you've got your big circle. You've got your hub and almost spoke. There's not quite the spokes. There are a couple of bridges that allow you to come back to the main area in front of the Tree of Life if you want to get there. But for the most part, you've got your circular pattern, which I appreciate because you can pick a direction and work your way around and not have to be running all over the park. Which I don't feel like you can do at Hollywood Studios.
Yeah, and I feel like that kind of came from I mean, it's definitely a hub and spoke style park, but it doesn't have. I mean, it's got maybe a couple spokes, but you're totally right. You basically just kind of pick a side and then meander through. Typically, before I would actually usually go right and hit Dino Land and kind of come around and hit all that stuff. But now usually I've been going left because you want to go to Pandora right away. And then you can go up through Africa, Harambe and everything. So that's kind of what I've been doing. But that's the thing, is that you kind of pick which side you want to go to first. And then you make your way around. And when you think about it, this might be different for you, but when I think about it, that's usually what I do at Magic Kingdom. Sometimes I'll use those spokes in the hub and spokes plan if I want to beeline off to somewhere. Like if I'm like, I want to go eat in Tomorrowland, let's make a beeline to Tomorrowland. I'll go through the middle area with the castle and everything. Some might call it the hub, but for the most part, if I'm having a leisurely stroll around Magic Kingdom, I'm going around that loop. Basically, just pick a side and then let the lands take me through. They plan that out so well, and they did that same thing with Animal Kingdom, where they just planned out how you're navigating around the park so well, all the way down to, you mentioned it, these paths that kind of take you into the park. And we haven't really talked about reveals that much, about kind of how things are, mainly because Hollywood Studios just doesn't really have great reveals until you start getting back to Star Wars Land. That one has some pretty decent reveals, but the reveal for the Tree of Life at Animal Kingdom is great. You kind of meander through all these paths. You make your way into that hub area, and then you're you're right there with the Tree of Life, and it's cool because you kind of you're the Tree of Life is almost at eye level, and then slowly you make your way down towards it, and then all of a sudden it looks massive. Disney's really good at that. So it's kind of like you're able to get a great view of the Tree of Life right away as you're coming through, and then the closer you get to it, the more monumental it starts to look. Which is
I love
always
walking down that hill, that
Oh,
bridge
yeah.
right there.
It's so good.
I love that view.
So it's definitely a lot more thought was put into the layout of this park. Definitely something to think about while you're going through that park is to kind of like look at how things are catching your eye and the transitions from area to area. That's definitely something that to talk about Walt some more. That's definitely something Walt had going on even in Disneyland. Even back in the 50s when he was making his park, that was something that was on his mind. And so it's nice to see that happened again at Animal Kingdom in such a great way. It's really cool to kind of walk from Harambe kind of through like the Asia area and then kind of see how there's a little monument, like a statue that is actually it mirrors Everest. So if you look at it from a certain angle, it will mirror exactly the mountain. And that's like, you're not even quite, you're like on the other side of like the lake area. And that's just theming is woven all around and it's all about how this whole park was laid out so that it can be the best park that it could possibly be. So I would say that this point definitely goes to Animal Kingdom and kind of by a landslide.
I think we were a little biased against Hollywood Studios there when you talk about it, but I mean, dead ends drive me crazy. So that's where I'm gonna go. So yes, Animal Kingdom, I agree.
So I kind of talked about it a little bit already, but the next category that we're going to talk about is theming. And this one, again, I kind of have a strong feeling towards one. However, you may be able to sway me to either side. Now, I'll let you know what I'm talking about here. The layout to Hollywood Studios is atrocious. But the theming in some of these individual areas are off the charts. And now I'm going to get a little technical on you guys. So if we're talking about theming and we're trying to kind of like decide which park is better with theming, there are two ways to look at this. We can look at it as which one has better themed areas? Like which park has themed areas that are better, that are just like they punch you in the face and like you just feel immersed. And it's just hard to know that you're in a theme park. I feel like both these parks have that. But I feel like, I don't know, Hollywood Studios does a good job of theming their areas. I mean, Star Wars Land, I feel like is the best themed area I've been to. Pandora is right next to it. Just gives it a real run for its money, but just kind of the layout of Star Wars Land just does such a good job. And it just really feels like you're in a Star Wars movie and you're in a Star Wars story. And so just the theming, just there alone. So sometimes I know we don't like to talk about these other parks. I mean, I do like to talk about them, but Universal Studios and Harry Potter Land, and this happens a lot where I just ignore literally everything else in that park and just run back to Harry Potter land, and I'm like in my happy place because I love Harry Potter, and that land is themed so well that I mean it's basically the reason some people will go to Universal Studios. And it was that way for a while. They're kind of up in their game now with new rides and stuff like that. But that's kind of how that land is, almost to the nth degree at Disney with Star Wars Land. Now, the cool thing is that it's actually in a pretty decent park. So there are other areas you can go to, like Toy Story Land. I feel like the theming in Toy Story Land could be plussed a little bit. But still, walking in and seeing a giant Buzz and a giant Woody is pretty sweet. Hollywood Boulevard, I feel like is very cool. I feel like the theming there is great, especially as you're walking up to Tower Terror and stuff like that whole area.
But let me stop you there, because the theming on that street would be a lot better if those Streetmosphere characters were back, because having the Barker and having the little truck that they'll drive up and down the street once in a while, and just the guys and the I don't know, the girls from like the 20s out on the street, like just kind of getting the crowd moving and talking, and that really brings that street together. When I was there in April, and we didn't have that. It was lacking. Was very noticeable to me. Like, I just wanted to blinders on, get to Tower of Terror, or in our case, Rock and Roller Coaster, because we skipped Tower of Terror. And so, it was kind of blinders on, let's go. And there was never anything to stop me and pull me into the shops or even to look at it. Like, there's a really cool car on one side, but there was nothing that really did that to me. So we need to get those Streetmosphere characters back. Sorry, tangent there.
Oh yeah. I would. Whatever. I would totally agree. I feel like for me, I'm a shopper. I tend to go into the shops anyways, and even going into those shops and just how well organized everything is. I mean, that's the weird thing, is that it just feels like Main Street there. If it feels like that should be the main street of the park, but it isn't. But I maybe that's why I like it so much. And even without the Streetmosphere characters, I really enjoy it. Just like kind of how everything leads up to Tower of Terror. And then you've got Rock and Roller Coaster just to the left. Something that is kind of weird now is that there is the Cars attraction back there, and for me, it always just kind of feels like I'm going backstage, because that was always backstage for me. Like, the park stopped at Rock and Roller Coaster. Like, I had never been able to kind of go back there, and even, I mean, this has been out for a little bit, but I still kind of feel like that's weird, and I'm going backstage even though I'm not. But even with that, I feel like the theming for Hollywood Boulevard is very fun. Even into the theming around the Echo Lake area is very cool. That's kind of like, you've got the older Star Wars attraction, Star Tours, and you've got the Indiana Jones area. I feel like that is all themed very well towards movies. I'm sure something's going to happen to that area, because I just feel like it's not a movies park anymore. I feel like it's an immersion park, and that's kind of what they're trying to do. But it's hard, because I do feel like the theming in like the individual areas for Hollywood Studios is strong, very strong. However, the cohesiveness of the park theme itself is hard. And I understand that they're in a huge transition into what the park will be. Even though it's all kind of over now and it's nice and settled, and they've kind of moved their sites onto Epcot for their big changeover and everything. However, I don't think that park is done changing. I don't think it's. I mean, it's never gonna stop changing, but I just think there's bigger plans in the works for what that park could be. I mean, at least I hope. um, but that's the thing, is that I've just never really thought that the cohesive theme to that park, and I don't think it's like the Imagineers' fault, because it's just its original idea of being a Hollywood of the East just like never panned out, like not even close. Like it just like Ernest Saves Christmas. Like that's like the only movie I can think of that was filmed there. And I know that only because I'm a Disney nerd. But it just like
Lilo
just
and Stitch
never
was created there, though.
Yeah. Yep. Correct. I was actually talking to my girlfriend the other day, and she reminded me of that. We were talking about there were actually 3 films that were made that were animated there, but it was just never like, I don't know, that idea of making it an immersive area to go and experience movie making just never panned out. And so they scrapped that almost immediately. And then it was just like, how do we make this park work? And it's still happening today. Like, you're still kind of feeling the effects of that failed experiment that happened in that park. And it sucks because, like we've said in this list already, it's got some of the best rides, and consistently. I mean, even there have been some rides that have come and gone that I've loved at that park. So it consistently gets some of the best rides on property, yet it just doesn't have a cohesive theme yet, even though it's probably the most exciting park, even now, with its terrible layout and nothing to eat. But it's a very exciting park. It just doesn't mesh, and it just doesn't have an identity. That's kind of what it's. Hollywood Studios is suffering an identity crisis, but it's figuring itself out. It's figuring its life out currently.
So big movies that were filmed at Hollywood Studios, like you said, Ernest Saves Christmas, or how about From the Earth to the Moon, or the big blockbuster Passenger 57. And don't forget Splash 2.
Wow.
Which did not have Tom Hanks or Daryl Hannah. Yeah. And they did animate Lilo and Stitch, as I said. They animated Mulan there. I have to say it. Twilight Zone Tower of Terror, the movie that was made for like the ride or whatever, they did that there, and like that one, I remember that one coming out in the 90s and spending a lot of time watching it because I was just into watching that stuff. I couldn't go to Disney at that time. So when that came out and I was like, oh, this brand new ride, and then they have this cool movie that goes with it, So anyway, I had to bring that up. But you're right. The park is having an identity crisis. I don't know. I think it always has kind of had that crisis going on, even when they first opened, because with these movies that were being made, it was always a thing of, we need to keep something being made there so that it seems like it's a working studio, because that's what Eisner really wanted at the time, a working studio. He wanted there to be somebody, a star of some sort, walking around. And if there wasn't, he was trying to find a way to get somebody in that park just so that it seemed like there was something going on. that right there, they're working hard. They're working too hard at it. So I don't know if we've talked about it too long, but like you said, the way Animal Kingdom is set up and the way it flows from land to land, it just feels better to me. You could even let's take Pandora and let's cut it out and set it aside. Let's take Star Wars, let's cut it out and set it aside. Let's not consider those two. Think about the parks otherwise. Hollywood Studios is a mess, right? It's a mess. Like,
Oh yeah.
you have a kid's backyard, you have old Hollywood, and then you have, like, I think they're calling it I guess they call it like Muppets Courtyard, right? On the other side, you got Muppets mixed with Star Wars, because you still got Star Tours sitting there.
Yep.
And I don't know what to think of Echo Lake. I don't know what that is. So it's still a mess.
Mm-hmm.
But when you take Pandora out, you've still got Discovery Island flowing into Africa, flowing around to Asia, and we won't talk about Dino Land. But it's still very cohesive, and it all still makes sense to what the park is doing.
Mm-hmm.
So another nod to Animal Kingdom.
Yeah, and it's I feel like I want to, and that's the hard thing, is how do you look at it? Is the whole park themed very well, or are these individual areas themed very well? I feel like if I was looking at themed individual areas, I'd have to give the nod to Hollywood Studios, but really only just because of Star Wars Land. Just how well that's put together, and then the fact that it does have some pretty decently themed areas around it. However, just the way that everything ebb and flows out at Animal Kingdom is just great. And just the way everything is put together there, this is put together with so much care and so much detail. Even down to like telephone wires being a mess, and like understanding that like this is poverty, like this is what this is supposed to look like. So it's just the amount of detail that is in that is amazing. But I mean, just walking around Star Wars Land and seeing fighters and seeing giant holes ripped into the sides of a mountain with blasters is just that alone. Just walking in through that area and just like wreckage, and then like walking in and seeing like a rebel base. It hits me in the feels. You walk in and the big weenie there would have to be, I mean, I would say that they're the mountains, but the weenie for me is I just go straight to that X-Wing. I see that X-Wing and I have to go look at it because that's just so cool. So it's hard.
I was making a beeline for the Falcon, so
that's always very cool. And I mean the attention to detail in that area is just amazing. We talk about Pandora and how they have a lot of really good sound dampening, and I'm not talking about foam. I'm talking about how as you walk into those areas, just the sound of Pandora takes over. Like you can't hear the outside world; you hear the sounds of Pandora. That is really apparent in Star Wars Land. If you ever spend enough time there, you'll start to realize what's happening. And I noticed this once. They have speakers on top of buildings, and they make it sound like ships are passing over your head. It's insane. I lost my mind when I noticed that. I was just like, this is insane. This is crazy. The fact that they're doing that, it's just crazy. But it's just attention to detail. I mean, it's Disney, so obviously it's going to be there. And that's kind of why it's so hard to kind of give this to Animal Kingdom because of how well themed certain areas are in Hollywood Studios, but just Hollywood Studios still doesn't know what it is. So I feel like I do have to give this one to Animal Kingdom because of how well themed and laid out that whole park is.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. As I said before, a nod to Animal Kingdom. It's so hard because Star Wars is so near and dear to my heart. And I agree the theming there is amazing. But, as I had pointed out, you take out Pandora and you take out Star Wars, and I have to give it to Animal Kingdom.
For sure, for sure. Now the last section that we're going to talk about is entertainment, and we're going to do this based on what has been there before, because a lot of that is gone, and a lot of that has been taken away, like shows and stuff like that. But we're gonna do it based on pre-COVID, just because that's what the full package usually would be at these parks. And I do feel like there's a pretty clear winner to this one. And maybe it's because this park is just more, I don't know, it's just more geared towards entertainment in this way. But I would definitely have to say that Hollywood Studios has better entertainment that you can find over Animal Kingdom. You've got Beauty and the Beast, you've got Fantasmic, you've got most of the time you have Streetmosphere characters out there just like roaming about, putting on a show. And these are shows. They pretty much post up in the middle of Hollywood Boulevard, put on a show, and take you with them. They're including you, and that's not really something you get a lot. I mean, you'll kind of be included into things like Janitor's shows and stuff like that, where like they kind of have crowd participation, but these Streetmosphere characters will literally pull you on stage in the middle of Hollywood Boulevard and put you into the show that they're putting on. So that's always very fun. You've got the Frozen Ever, or not Frozen Ever After, or is that what it's called? The Frozen,
it's a Frozen sing along.
Frozen sing along. That's a great production. Very fun. You do have, I don't know what it's called, but it's like the Disney Junior, not like Bear in the Big Blue House, but it's the, or is it Bear in the Big Blue House? It might be.
No, it's a dance party now, I believe.
Yeah.
Disney Junior Dance Party.
Yeah, Disney Junior Dance Party. But there's just so many opportunities there to go and see entertainment. And it's all very cool. I mean, just Beauty and the Beast alone, that's literally a stage show. Flip that around, the biggest show I can really think of is Finding Nemo. Now, that being said, Finding Nemo is probably the best show on property. I mean, other than stuff like Cirque du Soleil and stuff like that, the best show that's in a park. And so, but that's the thing, is that running through, I mean, other than we've got Streetmosphere acts that kind of happen in Harambe, and then you've got the Lion King show, Festival of the Lion King, which again is another really great show. But I mean, other than that, I'm kind of drawing a blank.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that. You've got Festival of the Lion King, which is terrific. You've got Finding Nemo. Burudika, I always loved watching from, well, as you said, in Harambe. And, they used to have some great performers up by the Discovery Trading Post, which you don't get that now. And I think that harp, the guy that played the harp, I think they let him go before COVID. So, that kind of, that's a knock on the park, when we first started talking about it, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna give this to Animal Kingdom. Easy. Because Finding Nemo and because Festival of Lion King. But you've got Frozen Sing Along, you've got Beauty and the Beast, you've got the Little Mermaid show, which was a placeholder and is now 20 years running, right? It wasn't supposed to last, and it just keeps hanging on, and it's still popular. My daughters and my wife went and saw it and loved it. When we were there back in 2016, they got to do that. And so earlier I was saying, when you look at pure numbers of rides, you gotta give it to Hollywood Studios because of numbers. In this case, again, Hollywood Studios has a lot more, right? And so hopefully, as Animal Kingdom starts realizing that they need to add stuff, because they do, it's a half-day park right now, especially since they got rid of Rivers of Light, and because Dino Land is suffering. There's, as much as I try to defend it, it's suffering. I believe I read this week, I haven't been able to take the time to read into every detail, but I read a headline that said that they've removed all the dinosaur merchandise from Animal Kingdom.
As in like that land, or as in like Dinosaur the movie?
Again, I wasn't able to watch all of it, but the dinosaur ride is supposed to be partly because of the dinosaur movie, right? So, something's changing there. Something's happening. I don't know what that is. But they recognize that dinosaurs hurting. Dino Land is hurting right now. And I go back to if you go back to the episode we did where we rethemed Dino Land and tried to tie things together, I think they could really do something in that land and with the infrastructure that they already have. And that would be a great place to put a show, so we're not here to defend a place because of what they could add. We're trying to decide what it is right now. And so, as I said, I originally was leaning towards Animal Kingdom because of those two wonderful shows. But when you really stack it up against Hollywood Studios, those shows are really good as well and very popular. The Frozen Sing-Along has been put together very well, and is very entertaining. So, it stacks up. And when you look at them, I agree with you. You got to go stop Hollywood Studios here.
Yeah, and even just kind of looking at the fact that that Animal Kingdom doesn't have a nighttime spectacular. It really doesn't have that thing that. And I also I was watching something today that kind of said like, hey, you're not going to have to deal with crowds leaving Animal Kingdom because there's nothing that keeps you there until a certain time. Like they don't have like a show that ends and then everybody leaves. It's just when people have decided they've had enough of Animal Kingdom, they leave on their own. And that's
for the people that aren't aware, they do have a Tree of Life Awakenings, which was always more popular to watch than that River of Lights show that was supposed to be so spectacular. But that's on like a 15-minute loop, right?
Yep.
So it's not keeping you there. You can watch it and leave. You can do something, come watch it and leave. So yeah, that's what it is right now.
I think the last time I watched that, now these are COVID crowds that I was dealing with, but I think the last time I watched that, I was standing in a group of maybe 15 people, and I walked up on it and I was like, oh yeah, this is a thing. And so you just don't have anything like that happening. And then you've got Phantasmic, which is Phantasmic. Like, if I could see Phantasmic again, I would be so happy. I haven't been able to the past couple times I've gone, and I really want to. Like I've only seen it once, and yet I'm here talking about it as if it's my favorite thing in the world and I see it every time I go. But that's just how great that show was. And I hear all the time about the things that they're going to be doing to Plus Phantasmic. And it's just such a cool show. And the fact that Hollywood Studios has that and has their own like Nighttime Spectacular. Also, I haven't even mentioned the things that they do for Star Wars. They have had in the past Star Wars fireworks. They've also had in the past they have a special Christmas pageant type thing that they do. They're in like that middle area. They make it snow. I don't know if they're still doing that because of COVID. I mean, technically they could make the snow sanitizing snow. Because spoiler alert, the snow is soap. Don't try to eat the snow at Disney when it snows because it's just flakes of soap. So don't try to eat it. That's your look back into the tech realm of Disney. But that it's some the things that they do for entertainment at Hollywood Studios far exceeds the things that they do at Animal Kingdom, and I think a lot of that kind of can go towards the fact that Animal Kingdom tends to close earlier. I mean, you can't really do too much when you're open from like 9 to 7. It's kind of hard to kind of keep people around and do something real big for them in that time frame. So it just kind of seems like there's nothing. There's a lot of exciting things happening in the park, but there's just no one thing that kind of keeps you there till a certain time or like makes you want to like you're not going to sit and watch fireworks at Animal Kingdom. Just they don't have anything like that. Whereas Hollywood Studios is consistently doing these really cool things in the park, things that sometimes can rival Magic Kingdom, and Magic Kingdom is the staple for nighttime spectaculars. I mean, you had Wishes, you've got Happily Ever After, you've got the Halloween stage shows, you've got the Christmas stage shows. And I just feel like Hollywood Studios is doing stuff just like that, whereas Animal Kingdom just doesn't really have anything like that. I do enjoy Pandora at night, but then that's just theming. That's a theming element. That's nothing that they've like really put out there to entertain you. So I mean, yeah, I just definitely give this to Hollywood Studios.
Totally agree. Yeah, Phantasmic was one. I used to always say it was the best show that they had. And that was until I saw some of the other stuff that they had, like Happily Ever After when that came along. That's always blown me away. So, yeah, I completely agree that we have to go with Hollywood Studios here.
So, let me tabulate what we got going on here. Looks like Animal Kingdom is the winner with 3 out of the 5 sections. We can go ahead and recap on that. Rides we gave to Hollywood Studios. Dining we gave to Animal Kingdom. Park layout we gave to Animal Kingdom. Theming we gave to Animal Kingdom. And entertainment we gave to Hollywood Studios.
Now, if I were to walk up to you and hand you a ticket and say, you can go to Animal Kingdom or you can go to Hollywood Studios, where are you going?
Hollywood Studios.
All day, right? All day. It's not even a choice.
Yes, that's what's so crazy is that and I don't know if that's the funny thing is I kind of had an inkling of this is kind of how we were going. I knew Ryan was a wild card and that he was going to have his own opinions, but most of his opinions totally aligned with mine. I don't know why I was worried. But that's the thing is that on paper, Animal Kingdom is the better park. But in our hearts, Hollywood Studios is the better park. It's
Well, and for me, Star Wars, like
Mm.
mic drop. I'm sorry that's going to do it for me. I could spend 2 days on Galaxy's Edge and not even blink. You know,
yeah. And I feel that for all of the talk that we do about Star Wars Land and Pandora, I do in my heart of hearts feel like Pandora can go toe to toe with Star Wars Land. It's got some amazing theming. It's got some amazing rides. It's just hard. It's Star Wars Land is just definitely better. Best themed area I've been to. I would have to say, I mean, we're not starting another list, but I'd have to say for me, best themed lands I've been to would have to go Star Wars Land, Harry Potter Land, Avatar Land, and then Africa in Animal Kingdom. Definitely those are just themed so well. But that's the thing. It's got better rides, and it's got Star Wars Land. And I guess that it's kind of like what are you looking for in a park? We can do another episode about what makes these parks so good. And that's the weird part, is that you'd think that all of these things that we just talked about, dining, layout, entertainment, these would all be really important things to have a good theme park, and Disney always does these things fairly well. But I mean, it's when it comes down to it, do you have rides and do you have Star Wars? So yeah.
Yeah. But now, like I said, I know there's somebody out there screaming at us right now saying, "You're nuts. Animal Kingdom's a better park," or "You're nuts. Why would you pick whatever over whatever?" Whatever, somebody's feeling different about us, about what we've said, right? So we need you to come out to Facebook. We need you to let us know that we're wrong and that we need to find another job. And no, not that far, right? But please come on out and let us know what you think about Animal Kingdom versus Hollywood Studios. This is the big showdown here. Let us know what you think.
Definitely.
It's going to be on the Facebook. Sorry, that was on me. So come on out to Facebook. Our group is Main Street. Our group is Miles from Main Street on Facebook, the community group, or just come out to our page. I always put a post out there either a day or two after the new episode post, asking for feedback, asking for you guys to let us know what you think. So come on out, let us know. We'd love to talk about it. If Facebook's not your thing, send us an email, milesfrommainstreetpodcast@gmail.com. And we're on Instagram as well. You can find us at Miles from Main Street.
Definitely. And we as you heard in this episode, we can talk either way. We were talking both parks. We thought we had a conclusion, but we don't have a conclusion. So coming out and talk to us. Let's figure this out together. We don't know where our heads are at.
Yeah, let's keep the discussion going.
But it was a very good discussion. We'll definitely have more of these about these the parks. We're going to pit all of the parks up against each other and see how they stack up, and then we're going to find the grand champion of parks. We're going to figure that one out. But that's all we have for you guys tonight. We will see you next time on Miles from Main Street.
Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed the show, please rate us on iTunes and subscribe. Email us at milesfrommainstreetpodcast@gmail.com with any thoughts, and visit us on Facebook under Miles from Main Street. We'll be bringing more to you weekly and look forward to talking to you then.
Until next week, remember,
some live close,
but most of us don't.
So let's talk about it.